can see it, I can see it ahead. We've been doing it for 50 years. Give it forward.
She's like,
We've
never
been doing
forget
it
him.
for 50 years, y'all know that.
So funny.
Well, yeah, that's what we're talking about, metacognition. You know what? We've been talking about that. I just want you to have more before you get to 50.
We'll wait on Ms. Creation. But while we do y'all want to share basically how the summitive's going, what kind of progress they're making? Coach, I see you have your pages. I love it.
I will say this. That was a question, I think it was number 9 or number 10,
Okay.
where the answer is negative, but it's a type in answer. So the negative sign isn't there, it's just a subtraction sign. So they've been asking me, what do I do? Yep, on the calculator to put it in. So they're asking me, what do I do if it's negative? So I'm just telling them to use that subtraction sign to put 9 just for now.
Yes, let me check the kind of calculator, but that's definitely a great solution for now, and we may want to have that conversation before the test begins for the next periods. Hey guys, if you need a negative, use the subtraction sign.
Well, our kids got practice on it because our kids did the thing on the computer yesterday, so they had to put in the subtraction sign.
Okay, good. That's a strange, because I thought the other one had a
It's number 10 for sure.
summative, fly around here somewhere. You said number 10. So it has there, but let me look at the student view. Miss Nash, does your calculator, when you're, like, as you're building yours, I guess, yeah, I mean, it's just gonna be that, that subtraction sign.
Got it, okay.
They have access in the platform to the TI-84 calculator, but as far as the text entry, the ones that I've seen that's not the equation editor, this is the type of calculator that they'll have. And it's the same one from last year, so it should be similar to the other things that they've seen, hopefully. So feel free to have that conversation as we move forward throughout the day. I wouldn't prompt them on what question they're going to need that for, and they're like, oh, I think this answer is going to be negative. But if you want to just preface that, we're talking about having to use the subtraction sign for the negative. So
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't counting them wrong for doing that, so I wanted to check with you.
it shouldn't be. So we can tomorrow, or you guys can actually see their text entry responses. So if you want to go in on your end and check the text entry, if they wrote a -9, just to make sure that it counted it correct, you're welcome to do that, just so that we can ensure that it's scoring it the correct way. So I'm pretty sure there's -9, -9.0, all of those options should be scoring as correct. Anything else in regards to the summative? Are they meeting? I know we have some time for tomorrow. We knew.
I think science may need the Chromebook.
So we have it worked out. They have their summative tomorrow, but they're going to borrow from RLA because they aren't using them tomorrow. So we're good. We can have them for our second day of testing. And then next time, I think for Unit 4, I don't think we had a 2-day summative because it's a shorter summative. But for Unit 5, we'll need to make sure we block those for 2 days. So trust me, I was looking at Ms. Green yesterday like, let's talk about Chromebooks here for a minute. Ms. Holly, can we possibly borrow, or RLA or science borrow? So other than that, we don't have any other housekeeping type of things. Hornet Time's still going well with your.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. So I still would like for you to model one of those questions or share with us those questions and kind of how you're walking your students through that. So would you be willing to do that maybe at the beginning of next week? I can put it on the agenda. That would be awesome, because I do think as we go into out of equations, that would be a way that we can incorporate some of those things into Hornet Time and warm-ups and things like that. So I'll put that on the agenda for next week. All right. Thank you, Miss Ash. I know you have a lot to do, so we appreciate you coming by and saying hello, but I don't want you to feel like you have to stick around with us.
Thank you, Ms. Nash.
Nice to see you. All right, so we added from yesterday's discussion about 8.4C, we added onto our agenda today that we needed to refine that proficiency chart and that piece of student evidence, because we talked about the calculator versus the by hand versus the how we wanted student evidence to be shown for our next unit. So the next unit starts on Monday, so we wanted to kind of revisit. So I have an activity for us to do. You have a calculator in front of you, and you have a dry erase board if you need it, but you don't have to use it if you don't want to. You can, I prefer for sure to show your final work on this page, okay? Do you want to start with table or graph?
Don't really matter.
Table, okay. So, you're gonna notice, I would prefer if you did not click the links in the agenda just yet, because these are ours from last year. I do have them printed for you as well, but I don't want it to maybe sway our mind. As we've refined our work, I think we have some different ideas from maybe last year. So, if you will, you can draw a line down the middle, or just some way, if you want to separate, Ms. Creation's already done that, I love it, by hand versus with a calculator. That was the biggest discussion we had yesterday, was what should their work look like if we're wanting them to do it by hand, and what should their work look like if we're wanting them to do it with the calculator. So I'm going to give us about 3 minutes to do this one, and then to have a conversation about it, and then we'll kind of refine last year's proficiency chart from there. Sound good? Mm-hmm. Okay. Minute left on the timer. So what I'm gonna ask us to do really quickly is if everybody kinda, you may have to stand up to do this part, but if you wanna put out, we're gonna compare to our last year in just a minute, but I want each of us to compare to each other. So if you wanna just stick your over here, and then you may, like I said, you may have to kinda stand, because we don't have a document camera at this point. But if you'll kinda come this way and kinda look at all four, and keep in mind the things that are similar to yours. And then maybe if somebody has something on theirs that you say, hey, I think this is a really good idea, keep that in mind, because what we're gonna do next is take our proficient work and we're gonna rework our proficiency chart, okay? If you wanna write some things down, if you just wanna keep them in your head, we're gonna have a conversation in just a minute. Okay. Y'all notice, anybody have any noticings that we need to keep on either, that's maybe on all of them? I'm gonna highlight, and that way we can kind of create our own proficiency model for ready. What kind of things, let's start with the by hand. What kind of things do y'all see with by hand?
The t-shirt.
Everybody has a T-chart for by hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is technically mine, but yeah, so we've got T-chart.
I didn't even do a calculator.
I just did it based on.
Mr. Burns like, hey, I haven't used that. You did what?
I did it based on just the question.
That's what I did too. Yeah,
on
Coach,
the
I think
table
you and
is
I
the
did the
teacher.
same. Because the table is the T-chart, right? Cool.
And the only reason I did mine is because a lot of kids mess up if it's that way, so
Yep.
I rewrote mine. They
I
don't
like
have
that.
to, but if they,
I think that's a good point. When it's a horizontal table, they do struggle to put those values because it's usually y over x instead, you know, so. Okay, so we have T-chart in whatever fashion. What else do we have for by hand?
delta y over delta x.
Yeah, delta y over delta x. We've got that, everybody. Okay, what else?
Miss Jordan got some algebra going.
Okay, look at Miss Joy. She's like, I'm gonna solve for the y-intercept. Okay.
So
So,
y'all went backwards here.
yes.
So
So either way, they could show their work for moving backwards to the y-intercept. So I think that could either be here or it could be here, right? Okay. What else do you see that we talked about yesterday as far as the word problem?
Oh, okay. Turn it to a sentence.
So yeah, we've got a sentence, which we said that's really the more rigorous skill. So if they're ready, they need to be able to put that information into a sentence. And then also on this one, we've got the actual labels.
ooh, I like it.
So because this is what's going to help them do this, right? So I think that's by hand. Any of the by hand that also applies for calculator.
The t-shirt.
Yep. Same thing, T-chart, what else?
The equation.
I did not do that, so I love that y'all put that into an equation because that's gonna help when we get to 8.4b and 8.5i, right?
And the sentence as well.
Equation in the sentence, okay? So we said we were gonna give them the option to either by hand or with the calculator. When we get to the CFA, if there are many students that are using the calculator and they seem to be more successful, that'll tell us at that point, hey, this is a strategy that we need to really move forward with. Any other noticings from proficiency chart here? Okay, so if you'll take yours, we're gonna spend about 1 more minute on this one, and we might have to do graphs another day, maybe tomorrow. So I want you to take a look at last year's. So it is in the agenda, so you can look at it there, or there's a copy. So just take a look at ready, because I think close and in need of support, we had those misconceptions from last year, right? So thinking about the conversation we just had, what updates do we need to make to this from last year?
We definitely need to incorporate the whole sentence written out.
Yes, so we need to add the sentence. Okay, what
And
else?
Delta y over delta x labeling.
Yeah.
Both.
For both, right? So let me ask this question: when they're doing where it is in the calculator, x, y, is it okay for them to label the x part of the table and the y part of the table, or is it beneficial for them to still have delta y over delta x as far as like stamps over months?
I say something.
Like in the fraction form? Okay, that's good. Okay, anything else that you notice that we need to add?
We need to make sure they know that they have to make a T-chart, because when they do the tests and the CFA, they're not gonna have this printed for them.
Absolutely, that's a great
So-
point. So I wonder, should we just go ahead and add that to our, our proficient work as a
I think
T-chart?
so.
I like that idea, okay. That's a really good point, Ms. Jordan, thank you. Okay, so fraction form, T-chart for both, delta Y over delta X, real world for both, anything else? Do many of the things we just talked about apply to also the graph as well?
Yes.
I mean,
2 points, T-chart.
Yeah.
real world, sentence, all the things, pretty much, right? So that'll be a good conversation. I do have that, but we got to start unpacking. So I'm going to save this and probably give it to y'all for tomorrow's PLC.
So are we gonna work backwards? Is that how we're gonna teach it?
Let's have a conversation. What are y'all's thoughts about when it's not given, when the y-intercept's not given? What are y'all's thoughts?
Do we ever have like a big jump between the y-intercept and the first one that they give us? Because that's the only time that it's gonna be an issue, working backwards.
I'm going to do something really quickly. Pardon my unpreparedness, but I think that's a really good question. So we're going to go down the rabbit hole for just a second. This is 8.4C, right?
Mm-hmm.
So really quickly, let's look at those items because I think that's a great question. And we did this when we unpacked, but I think it's important. And I wonder if someone can pull up the Unit 4 planning guide and we make this note as we're having this conversation. So the question was, how many times in a table is the y-intercept not there that they have to work backwards? And
Yeah,
what's the
and is
discrepancy?
it a
Yeah.
large
All right,
jump?
let's take a look. Because we had tables, it was tested 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in a table form. So that one's not. Okay.
So right there it's 5.
Yeah, that one's not super pretty. And I mean, when you look at the state, it's only 40% of the state that got this correct. If we're thinking about the strategies we just talked about, what's going to be the easier strategy for this question?
The algebraic process.
Maybe?
The calculator.
The calculator.
Well, the calculator does.
I mean, if we're talking about them just finding the y-intercept, it's
Yeah.
going to be quicker. Now, what do they have to do with it once they find it?
They have to know what it means.
Yeah, so it's the application that's the higher rigor skill. So can I find it? I can find it pretty quickly with my calculator, but then I still have to know what to do with it, right? So that's one. Graph. Okay. Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
what do we notice about that one?
This one. But also if it's number of hours worked, then makes sense that
Yeah. So do they, for this
they don't
question,
even have to have the y-intercept.
they don't even have to have the y-intercept. Again, can they solve it algebraically with like the by hand? 100%. Can they also solve it in the calculator pretty easily? And again, they're still having to then apply their knowledge of the slope. So both of those were not super nice so far. What that?
Ooh, we go 2, 3, 4.
You
It's
can,
even, so
Yeah.
you can
calculator.
efficiently and quickly, which way is going to be probably more.
Probably that.
Are they still having to then interpret what it means?
Mhm.
Yes. So I wonder, as we think about next week, is it more beneficial for them to have the information and then practice applying it? And I know we love the algebraic process and way, and I'm not saying get rid of it, but I 100%, we know, and we talked about when we unpacked, that the higher level skill is the application of it. So if we're going to spend time on something, it may be more beneficial to spend time on the application once I have the information. This one's not super difficult, but it also has the graph too, which we know they lean towards. That one,
It's right there.
given, but they hadn't done that since 2017, so I wouldn't bank on it. Okay, everybody okay with that? Does that give us some insight?
Yeah.
Did we get that in our unit planning? Perfect, thank you. Okay, so I am going to, we already have this document, I'm just gonna update it with our changes, and then I'll shoot it back out to you guys just to proof it and make sure that it's ready. Sound okay?
So this is the resource for Wednesday. So do I need to go to number 4 about a sentence?
What are you, let's have that conversation, that looks amazing, by the way.
This is the resource for Wednesday next week. I finished it up. Do I need to just add the sentence?
Because you modeled that for us yesterday, right, that lesson?
Yeah, I just went in and
Maybe number 4, write out what the sentence would be or interpret.
Yeah, I like that word, yeah,
okay.
yeah, I like that.
I'll just go in and edit it. I'm just like I can get together.
Sounds great. And by then, we'll have this, they will know that that's what proficient work looks like, so, sounds good. Okay, what's next? Did I just put that on one side?
Unit 5 overview.
Okay, perfect, it is 9:08, how much?
We get out at 35 because it's around this time of day.
Is 35 the 5 before the 5?
No.
Okay, that's the actual stuff, okay, so 30, right?
30.
Okay, so I knew we were not gonna get all the way through these, because, you know, unit 5 is pretty large, thank you, coach. It's pretty large, so I would like for us, for 5 minutes, independently, maybe 3, let's do 3, and pass some time back. What you see in the agenda is the CMS, the Curriculum Management System, takes you to 8th grade, and it has our links to all of our 8th grade stuff, right? And then also you see the Unit 5 planning guide, and I have added a couple columns, and we'll talk about those later, but you're gonna notice all of the standards, you'll notice the learning targets that we've got, the lessons from last year, basically everything that's there, and then we're gonna actually do something different this time as we unpack. We're gonna fill in some of the vocabulary, and we're gonna talk through some of the prior knowledge skills, because we've been doing that separately all throughout our discussions. So we're gonna just have all the conversations at the same time, okay? I want you to take 3 minutes, and I want you to kind of write down the big ideas for the unit, okay? So what are the big themes of the unit, and what things do you notice, what skills what things do you remember from last year, anything that sparks your mind about this unit specifically. And then we'll each have about 30 seconds to share out, okay? So coach, if you'll do a 3-minute timer, click through those links, click through any of the unpacking documents, the lessons, the CMS, all that good stuff, big ideas for the unit, and then we'll have everybody share out.
This is what we're recording. And we can take a picture of it and so we got this so that it's not like thinking like, oh, how do we do it that the year before and we can see.
We can even put, like, we tried this and it did not work, do not do this next year, right? I mean, we can make notes and like you said, we can take pictures. And notes in, you know, or the,
I hate when they don't.
They don't.
so, why did it do that? Oh, because it's too. Huh. All right, how much time we got left on that time, Coach?
16 seconds.
All right, everybody ready to kind of share out, discuss, noticings, findings, things like that? All right, I'm going to put a 30-second timer for each of us. And basically you have that 30 seconds to talk about any of the findings or noticings or things that you feel like, hey, we need to keep this in mind as we move forward in this unit, okay? So, Miss Jordan, will you go first?
One thing that I remember having a big issue with last year was people remembering what proportional means. So we need to find a way to make that stick in their heads. And also, I feel like it took us a while to get them to remember functions. So maybe like an in-your-face way, like the first day of instruction.
Yeah. Cool. Good. 30 seconds. Awesome. All right, Miss Creation.
I'm gonna go along with Ms. Jordan because proportional, because we learned that first, and then we go into functions. The kids get mixed up, and they want to do like the non-proportion for functions on some of them. Like they try to do that, but you can't.
Okay.
I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah.
they kept mixing up proportion and functions.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is we can bring in some of those non-linguistic strategies with proportions and functions vocabulary. Okay, Coach?
And I said the same thing. There's a, it's easy to misconceive proportions and functions because you're just looking for one thing. So I just would get those two confused. And if we can get the language down for functions, what is it? And I myself struggle with it still from not looking at it. 1x is paired to,
Remember that drop down thingy that
right.
we did?
I still have that.
You do?
Yeah.
So if we can, just get that through to them at the beginning, I feel like we can be more successful with that standard.
Each X has exactly one line.
Right.
Each X, yeah. And I saw a TikTok video, y'all almost in it too, but I didn't. Because it was really, it was professional, but it was like not mathematically professional, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so I'm going to take note of that. Most difficult thing for students in this unit is vocabulary. Like, it's what every single one of you said, hey, the vocabulary in this unit is big. We need to make sure from the beginning that we're finding different ways to expose them. So we can think about that, obviously, as we go into instruction, but maybe as we unpack, it's really cool, y'all, when this happens, okay? Because one of the cool things that we're going to do is we're actually going to pull the vocabulary from the STAR questions, and we're going to, write it in our unit planning document. So, before, we kind of created our own vocabulary, and we'll do that too, but we're going to actually pull the actual terms from the STAR release questions and drop them in this unit plan as we unpack. So, then we will know. Remember when we did that with ascending and descending? And it had never been tested that way? And we were like, why are we spending all this time on ascending and descending when it's never been tested that way? So we're going to do that with these, and hopefully it'll give us more of a focused vocabulary work. Okay, so what we need, we have, 15 minutes left? Perfect. We have, what are our essential standards in this unit?
8.4B.
8.4B.
And 8.5G.
8.5G. 8.4B impacts many of them. Coach, you were going to say something?
I was going to say for 8.4B, the biggest keys for that one is we did that chop walk in the park. So from a table to create a graph. And the biggest thing that they struggled with that was creating a scale factor that was realistic to the situation that they had. So
Yeah, that was, and we know with the new item types that could be something that they've put in front of them as far as create a graph from the scenarios. That's good. Let's start with 8.4B then. That's our one of our biggest essentials. It is also ingrained in almost every supporting standard in this unit, proportional, non-proportional, all the ones that are like secondary, go with A4B. So we need a vocabulary scribe. So that person, as we unpack or as we look at the released items, we're gonna actually list in the unit plan right here. So here's 8.4B. We're gonna just type, oh, it says unit rate, enter. Oh, it says whatever it says. Wanna do that, Coach? Cool. So Coach will do that. Everybody's like, I'm fighting too, right? I love it. Okay, we need a tally question scribe, so somebody to tally for us.
I'll tally.
Awesome, thank you. Handy dandy markers. And we need an unpacking scribe. Looks like it's gonna be
Wonder who that's gonna
illustration.
be.
See, you should have spoke up earlier.
Listen, you know what I love about this team though is they all will like do any of the things. So they're all comfortable and they all volunteer pretty much for all the things. So we will not get done today, 100%. Okay, but I think the goal for today, for the rest of our PLC, could be look at the released items, look at the unpacking document, start tallying, and then having some conversations about vocabulary. Okay. So 4B, and I do have a copy for you guys, just to have it a little easier accessible. I don't know if y'all want to smell. We have learning targets from last year. We have all the things filled in from last year, but let's take a look and make sure that we are on the same page. So what nouns do we have in this standard?
Nouns?
Nouns, yeah. Do we agree with our nouns?
Yes. Proportional. unit
Proportional
rate.
relationships, unit rate, slope of a line. Are those vocabulary pieces, because they're in the standard, that we want to put in our vocabulary list in our unit plan? Okay. All right. What about the verbs here?
Graph and interpret.
Graph
And interpret.
and interpret. And Coach, you even mentioned that word interpret. What are they already doing in our current unit that's going to help support this?
In
Think
unit
about what we
3?
just, yeah.
Oh, unit 4.
Unit 4, I know, this is unit 5, we're in unit 3, y'all were like in 3 units at one time. Think about what we just did with our table. What are we having them do already?
That's why we
Interpret
don't text and
it.
put no
So it's like an interpret the
Yeah.
graph.
Yeah, so this isn't gonna be a new skill for them. This is gonna be like, oh, we've already done this before. Okay, so we had some learning targets. Ms. Creation, will you read those learning targets for us? And they're also up here as we tally just a minute.
Okay, I can identify, match the difference between proportional and non-proportional from graphs, tables, and equations.
Okay,
And then I can interpret the slope from a graph showing a proportional relationship.
okay,
And then I can choose the correct graph when given a real-world proportional scenario.
so that's our 3, right? So we've got those 3. As we tally, we're gonna tally them on those learning targets to see how many times each of those learning targets are tested. And if we need to make any notes specifically, if any of them are tested as new item types, we'll mark that and then we'll kind of go from there, okay? So we've got 8.4B. And I'm just gonna scroll and I'm gonna let you guys have the conversation about where we need to tally, what vocabulary. So as you look at the question, if you notice a piece of vocabulary that we need to make note of, let's tell Coach, hey, will you put in this to the unit plan? All right.
Choose the correct graph from a given scenario.
Okay. So it aligns with the learning target. That's good. Okay. What vocabulary do you see, or do we already have it? Slope. And really graph, but we already have that. Okay. 38% of the state, y'all. That's pretty low. 31% chose A. So that's a we'll have to look at that as we build.
So really on that one, they make that's Y or that's X from the scenario and put it into the equation
Yeah.
and look at the table.
Yeah. And they have, right? They have a ratio already, so we could, you know, come up with a different way for them to make a T-chart from the ratio.
I love them proportional.
Okay? Yeah, that's, yeah. I think all of these are unit rate, so they should be.
So choose a graph from the situation.
Okay. Situation. vocabulary or phrases that need to be made note of? What about this little phrase?
I was gonna say number of miles per
So-
minute.
Can we call that a rate or some blank per blank?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not always going to be miles, not always going to be minutes, but 67% of the state got that one, so they did a little bit better on that one. Okay.
Choose the paragraph. I'm gonna give us name.
They like that. I could see this being a hot spot eventually, like which points represent that when purchased $12.50 for 5 bracelets, and then they have to choose. You know, we've seen those before, so maybe we could make that an assessment question into a hot spot.
No.
Yeah, choose graph. Travel distance. Slope. Have we put rate in there yet?
Unit rate, not rate itself.
Okay.
That's 6. Five.
So all of these so far have just given them a ratio, right? But again, if we go back to the delta y over delta x with the verbs and not the verbs, I'm not a language art person, with the labels, they could totally plug that ratio in and get that unit rate.
Maybe same cost.
Oh yeah, same. That's true. Because that's unit rate, but it's saying it in a different way. Okay. Per. Okay.
Ooh.
She's got old. Right, yeah, okay.
That's the same.
I hate y'all, that question.
Negative.
Those negatives on the graph. Ugh. Okay. I'm gonna scoot through these next few pretty quickly.
Same.
Same,
Same.
same. Yeah.
Interpret. Slope from the graph. Number. Choose the pair.
Choose.
Choose.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Ms. Jordan. Really quickly, we have 5 minutes. Okay. I want you to take a look at the learning targets that we have. I want you to take a look at ways it's assessed, because I think we need to do some refinement on our learning targets. What things do you notice? How can we refine? Do we need to change, edit, remove, add any learning targets?
They don't even go over the differences, so.
Why do you think we did that? Look back at the unit plan. Why do you think that we did that? Because that's a good thing for them to be able to do. But where's that coming from?
That's proportional, non-proportional, and that's everywhere, so, yeah.
That's these. They have their own learning targets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do we need it here?
Yes. No.
Is it part of the standard?
Right.
Do students need the a skill?
They do need to.
Yes. Is it a part of this standard?
No.
It's not. Are we all in agreement that we can, I'm not saying remove it from the teaching, but we can actually move it to where it belongs?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Do we need to add, refine, change the current learning targets? Think about what they just had to do. So obviously the third one is like, well, yeah. What do they have to do to be able to find the right graph? How is the information given to them? Do we have that? Now we can do that as a check for understanding, but if they're having to do that, for sure it can be a part of our success criteria, but should it be in, and I'm not saying I am saying yes or no, but I'm just posing the question. Does it need to be in the learning target, or do we need to just make sure we add it to the success criteria somewhere?
I say make it a learning
I was
target.
gonna say, maybe
Find
learning.
the unit rate from the ratio or something like that.
I mean, if they can do that in isolation, could they then later do this?
Graph part.
I think so. So what would that learning target sound like?
Given a ratio, I can determine the unit rate.
How's that? And what other standard is in this unit that's going to support that we don't have a lot of time to teach?
The direct variation.
Direct variation. That's direct variation. The only thing with direct variation, it's not unit rate, but it's still a proportion. So same skill. Okay, so we updated our learning targets. We will write success criteria and look at our proficiency levels for sure. This is a big unit, which is the reason we're starting it so early. Like we still have 2 weeks in Unit 4 before we even start teaching Unit 5. So I wanted to make sure we started this unpacking process as early as we could. I will be off campus tomorrow, I think. We're here? We're here, but we're not here. You know, we're proofing benchmarks, getting them ready for you guys and our children. So I'm going to give these, who wants to be in charge of these for tomorrow? I love their like inspiration. So for tomorrow, for tomorrow, I'm going to add here that y'all are going to complete and finish the 8-4C proficiency chart, and then shoot me your notes and I'll update it however you guys see fit. And then if y'all just want to continue the unpacking process, I'll make some notes in the agenda for you guys. So y'all want to meet in Ms. Creation's room? Awesome. Thank y'all so much. And let me know if you need anything else for the summative, and we'll do our data dig on that next week.
Okay. Let me get those girly sheets. Let me get this turned in.
Thanks, y'all. Oh, I have these Halloween thingies that Alex gave me. I don't know where you got them, but they're like a whole bunch of coupons. I didn't know if you wanted to like cut them up and use them with your kiddos. There's like tons of them. I think each packet has like 10 on them, so feel free. I think they expire like end of November.
Straight up, not like buy one get one.
Yeah, I think they're actually like for
you
real,
can go
for
and
real.
use the whole coupon book at one time.
Oh, you can?
Yes.
Okay. Get a whole meal.
Do you have a Wendy's here?
We do, but it's kind of out of town, isn't it? In the
Because they
truck
do
stop?
this, they do the same thing, and it's like for $1 you get like 5 small Frosties, and you don't have to buy anything. You can just.
I love a good frosty.
I was like, where is when it's right by Oregon?
Yeah.
It's like on the way to your
I was like, I know it's so